So I grabbed a few drinks this past week, and it came with this little holder. It clips on top of the tins, it puts it into a little 4-pack, and you carry it around with you. And I'm looking at this little collection of shapes, and I'm like, these are really cool. I want to make these into something for the layout, just to see if I can. So the first thing I thought about was sort of industrial cooling towers. They're these fluted towers with water running down on them, and you would have fans across the top. However, I don't need a cooling tower. But then I was thinking about the fans, and I had an idea. Let me show you. All right, so this is my union station. There are retaining walls inside. Let's see if we can't. Hang on, let me get some better light for you. All right, that's better. So you can see that there is 5 archways across the back of the platforms, and I'm thinking about adding great big ventilation fans to the center of them. A lot like movies that you've seen like Resident Evil or Alien or like Daylight with Sylvester Stallone.
It's not stopping! It's not slowing down, Grace! The brake! Hit the brake!
There are no brakes!
I cut these apart off of the sprue, so to speak, and set them into the retaining wall, and then maybe craft some sort of blades and a grill to put on top of this. I can add some big ventilation fans for the inside of our passenger station, and you know what? Reuse these and have a bit of fun along the way. So there is my retaining wall. It has 6 arches. I'm going to focus on the 4 middle arches for the ventilation fans. This little container that I'm holding my pins in is almost the exact same diameter as the fans are going to be. So I'm going to use this and try to emboss each of the areas so that I can carve out the area for the fans. Also, I want to put some sort of platform up the base of the wall, and what I'm thinking is I have some square dowels, and so if I sort of dado those in and put them against the wall, the ventilation fan can dip down behind the bottom of it, and then I'll have these sort of platforms in front of it. This is the point that I've got to right now. So I have each of the portals carved out. I removed all the extra foam so they're deep enough for the cap to sit in, and then I sanded the outside ring by attaching a bit of sandpaper to the original cup. I used a crumpled foiled ball and just put a bit of texture onto the styrofoam to create a bit of a concrete texture. We'll see how this looks. And then I added the square dowel so that I have the platform for a railing and maybe some people to walk around. At one point I had 3D printed these railings for another project, and I think I can just make some again and just apply them like that. So really what I need to do now is I want to go test fit this to make sure it still fits, and then I need to think about how I'm going to paint it and how I'm going to make the propellers. So I have test fit it into its final resting place, and it fits perfectly. And I think that those fans off in the distance like that are going to look pretty cool. So I quickly gave this prime, and I did things a little bit differently. I first hit it with a light misting of Super 77 adhesive. It adds this sort of speckled texture to the foam and the little bits of laser cut plywood, and it makes it look a little bit more like concrete. Now, it's a little heavy, I'm going to knock it down with some sandpaper, but it does add a nice little texture. After that, I quickly gave it a coat of black because I had it on hand, and I used up the rest of my gray spray paint. I'm going to go back in, I'm going to sand down a few of the rough spots. I'm going to experiment with a different sort of paint job for this and see if I can't make it look a bit more like old concrete. I am really happy with how these turned out. It's a bit ridiculous to have these 4 industrial fans inside the station, but I think it adds a bit of interest and some lore, and it actually makes the underground station a lot more interesting. The 2 major takeaways from this project is that using the Super 77 as a light misting before I do the painting introduced a really nice texture. The second thing is that I was concerned that the colors that I had chosen, the concrete colors and the blend of all the different sponged on paints, was a bit too bright and happy. But the trusty rubbing alcohol India ink wash brought it all together and brought it down, and I think this looks exactly how I want it to look. Let's move over to the layout and install these.